right, this week let's discuss social media breaks as a potential treatment for depression and anxiety. Could it be as easy as putting your phone down or your tablet or shutting off the computer or whatever device you're using to hop on social media? Now, I know this is borderline blasphemous territory to enter here because, if you're like my main workout partner at the gym, you're addicted to your phone and your social media and you can't put it down. But personally, I love to disconnect from my devices, and I look forward to going on vacation each year because I go wherever I go. I put my phone down on the desk when I get there, and actually I turn it off when we start traveling, and then I don't turn it back on until I'm approaching home, 7 to 10 days later, however long the trip is. And when I told my workout partner that a couple of years ago, he said, "Oh man, I wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know how you do that." And he's amazed that I can do that. Meanwhile, I can't wait to do that. And I tell him, if that's how you feel about it, then you need to do it more than anybody, because you're literally addicted to your phone or your device. And so today I want to share some brand new research that suggests not only would it be good for everyone to do, but it implicitly suggests that our devices are contributory to the mental health issues in our society, and that they could be a target for treatment when seeking to reduce the mental health issues in our society. So let's jump over to the research here. So here we are with the study published in the journal Cyber Psychology, Behavior, and Social Networking. And the title is "Taking a 1-Week Break from Social Media Improves Well-Being, Depression, and Anxiety." And this is a randomized controlled trial. And essentially what you can see here is that the authors wanted to understand the effects of a 1-week break from social media being Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, on well-being, depression, and anxiety compared with using social media as usual. And so if we move over to the news story based on this paper here, I just want to read through it a little bit and then we can talk as we go. But the news story was titled "Social Media Break Improves Mental Health." And so they start with saying, asking people to stop using social media for just 1 week could lead to significant improvements in their well-being, depression, and anxiety, and could in the future be recommended as a way to help people manage their mental health. Now, they say in the future because, of course, these are early studies, and research always ends with, here's further research that needs to be done. But, I've been recommending this for years before these studies were published, and it's pretty intuitive. People know when they're using their devices too much and they're on social media too much. They just don't make themselves take action to stop it. And so this study was done by researchers at the University of Bath in the United Kingdom. And what they did was the researchers randomly allocated 154 people between the ages of 18 and 72 who used social media every day to either an intervention group where they would stop using it for a week, or a control group where they'd keep using it as normal. And at the beginning of the study, they used baseline scores for anxiety, depression, and well-being. So there are scientifically researched and validated questionnaires for each of those, for anxiety, for depression, and for well-being, so that we can give a person a questionnaire and their score categorizes them into a certain level of anxiety or level of depression or level of well-being, a score, if you will. And that way you have a baseline score. You can implement whatever action you're doing, which in this study was stopping social media for a week. And then at the end, have them fill out the questionnaires again and see the impact of your variable on anxiety, depression, well-being. So in this study, they're investigating the impact of stopping social media for a week. What's interesting is participants in the study reported spending an average of 8 hours a week on social media. Now, that's a lot, okay? That's over 200 hours a year if you are, that's over 400 hours a year if you're keeping track with the math. So 50 weeks times 8 hours a week, it's 400 hours. And so 400 hours is let's see, that'd be about 12 days of your year. So that's over a week of your year, right? 4 days would be 100 hours roughly. So yeah, 16 days. That's 2 weeks of your year roughly that you're spending scrolling. Okay. So before we judge those people, I bet if we all kept track of ourselves, we would be in the hours level of use. And if you want to track yourself, your phone probably already has something built into it that's doing that if you go to your settings, but there are specific apps you can use to track your social media usage as well, and you can set limits for yourself. On the, I believe on the iPhone, the app is called Moment, the Moment app, and if you have an Android, it's called the Quality Time app. So either of those apps will track how much time you're spending on social media and allow you to set limits and alerts. So anyway, the participants that were in the treatment group in this study went from 8 hours a week on social media down to basically none. So the researchers were quoted as saying, scrolling social media is so ubiquitous that many of us do it almost without thinking from the moment we wake up to when we close our eyes at night. All right, well, that sentence is a problem, especially if you work with me from a health perspective, because we shouldn't be starting our day diving into our phone, and we shouldn't be ending our day diving into our phone because of various reasons, but one of which is how the blue light from the phones is far brighter than the ambient light that humans co-evolved with, being put off by the light dark cycles of the sun. So using the phone from wake to bedtime can disrupt your circadian rhythm and lead to all kinds of issues, from sympathetic nervous system dysfunction to sleep issues to anxiety to many of these things that we've spoken about in different videos. So you don't want to start with it. You don't want to end with it. Okay. Back to the quote. We know that social media usage is huge and that there are increasing concerns about its mental health effects. So with this study, we wanted to see whether simply asking people to take a week's break could yield mental health benefits, right? So this wasn't a high cost study. You don't need a ton of money. All you have to do is say, hey, people, put down your phone for a week and let's get pre and post questionnaires on how you're doing. And by the way, I didn't highlight it, but the way that they tracked whether people were compliant on this in this study was screen usage stats were provided to check that individuals had adhered to the break. Quote, many of our participants reported positive effects from being off social media with improved mood, less anxiety overall. This suggests that even just a small break can have an impact. Of course it can. Of course, social media is a part of life, and for many people, it is an indispensable part of who they are and how they interact with others. But if you are spending hours each week scrolling and you feel it is negatively impacting you, it could be worth cutting down on your usage to see if it helps. So again, there's biological impact of so much scrolling, all the way down to the point where the social media companies know that scrolling has a neurochemical impact. So, some platforms you scroll vertically, some platforms you scroll horizontally. Well, vertical eye movements stimulate dopamine. Horizontal eye movements stimulate serotonin. So constant scrolling is a constant neurochemical kick. It's kind of a hit. So, if you're scrolling Instagram vertically, you're getting a dopamine hit with each scroll, right? And so that can be addicting. Dopamine is that feel-good neurotransmitter. That feels good. I want more of that. So, that is built into the system, and it keeps you on longer. And it can impact you, long term. Its addictive properties can kind of blunt your enjoyment from other things. And so, if you want to learn more about this, there's a great podcast on Tom Bilyeu's YouTube channel where he interviews Dr. Uberman about dopamine. So check that out. back to this here. The team also wants to follow people up for longer than 1 week in future studies to see if the benefits last over time. But check this stat out. Among 16 to 44-year-olds, as many as 97% use social media, and scrolling is the most frequent online activity we perform. So those are United Kingdom stats, but it probably applies to America as well. So let's jump back over to the paper. So the paper goes into those usage stats, but one other thing I want to mention here, they end this paper saying they want to go longer than a week and see if it has impact. And there's been research in that area already, whereas Hunt et al. Here found that limiting undergraduate college student social media usage to just 10 minutes per platform per day for 3 weeks led to clinically significant reduction in depression. So 10 minutes a day for 3 weeks, if you're moving them down to 10 minutes a day from 8 hours, that's huge. And it occurs, for 3 weeks, it's intuitive that if you do it for longer, it's probably going to have a significant impact as well. And so it's not just the act of scrolling and looking at the screen, but what about all of the kind of social impacts of keeping up with the Joneses and maybe people, part of the mental health issues, the comparisons people make between their lives and the lives of others that they're seeing on social media, and the messaging that they're getting on social media. If we're going from 8 hours a week down to, if we're going 10 minutes per day, 8 hours a week down to, that's 1 hour and 10 minutes per day, say, that's a massive reduction in the garbage in, garbage out of spending so much time on social media. So if you're somebody that is, dealing with depression or dealing with anxiety or have, a lack of well-being, you might be here, first of all, saying, well, what the heck is that? Well, here's how these authors defined it. Depression would be feeling, quote unquote, low, losing pleasure in things that are and losing pleasure in things, okay? Whereas anxiety is excessive and out of control worry. Irritability, restlessness, tiredness, sleeping problems, poor concentration, memory issues, those often accompany depression and anxiety as well. They define well-being as an individual's level of positive affect or positive attitude, life satisfaction, and sense of purpose. So obviously these are kind of reciprocals of each other. And so, if you're lacking motivation, if you're lacking life satisfaction, and you're feeling low and you're irritable and restless and can't sleep, potentially one contributing factor would be the time that you're on social media. And if you're someone that knows they spend a lot of time on social media, or even if you don't think you do, implementing these tracking apps to help objectify how much time you're spending on them, and then help you track it and change it, may lead to improved life satisfaction, decreased depression, decreased anxiety for you. And that's free. Those apps are free. All it's going to take is some discipline capital. It's holding yourself accountable and saying no and breaking that addiction. So I'd encourage you to, as summer is heading our way, take a social media vacation of at least 1 week or even more, and report back with how you do and what you observe.